This is an exercise that will help you understand the way that the joints in the legs and the arches in the feet work. It'll also bring you with some awareness of other changes that are happening through the whole body. So I'm going to show it to you fairly quickly. You have to practice this on your own. So this is part of our sequence of its rooting is located in the feet, its releasing is in the legs, the directing and aiming is in the waist, the taking shape is in the hands. So we have a series on this, and I mentioned this video there. This is useful to do in any case. So I'll give you the mechanics, and then you need to practice. So start out with your feet in actually a classic horse stance, so not like what we do in the form. So make sure the toes are angled out and that you're wide. You're not just shoulder wide. Get yourself wide so that you've actually got room. And what we're going to do is squat and stand back up. So the mechanics are, as you squat, allow the arms to come out at the bottom of the squat, the hands turn over and the fingers are close. And as you stand up, let the arms drop. So you're sitting down, keeping yourself upright, the arms come out, they come over the top, the palms are down, stand up, let the hands come down. Make sure while you're doing this that you stay exactly upright. Don't let the squatting lead you to be bending over. But as you sit down exactly vertical. As you stand up, you come back up exactly vertical. So this is a good thing to practice basically over and over, a bunch of repetitions. Let me talk about some of the things you should be paying attention to as you do this. One of them is that as you sit down, your thighs will actually rotate out. And as you stand up, the thighs will come back in. So do this a couple times. Sitting down, feeling the thighs rotating out. As you stand up, feeling the thighs come back in. So when you do this, you can put your hands on the inside of the thighs. And as you sit down, if you don't lean over, you'll feel that the hands are spreading. As you come back up, you'll feel the hands coming towards each other. Make sure the hands actually reach their palms down in front of you place before you stand up. A lot of times when I show this to people, they want to do something like this where they're bringing the hands together as they're standing up. So the arms go out, they fold over, you've hit bottom. You stand up, they drop. The thighs are rotating out as you do this. As you stand up, the thighs are rotating back in. So you want to really feel that rotation happening in the pelvis as you sit down and as you stand back up. Now the knee, we often think of the knee as being a hinge joint, that it just goes there. It's almost a hinge, but it's not quite. It's as if there was like a cone in the knee. The pointy side of the cone is on the outside. The bigger side is on the inside. So as the two legs go down, the inside moves more than the outside. And the same thing as they come back up. So that's part of what makes the thighs rotate out and rotate back in as they come back up. So as you're doing this, experience the rotation out of the thighs and notice what happens to the lower leg as this happens too. So the lower leg ends up almost pulling up on the arch of the foot. As you sit down and you do this, the arch of the foot will increase. As you stand up, the arch of the foot will decrease, will flatten. So you're arching the foot more, you're letting the arch flatten. At the bottom of the feet, the tripod and the heel, the ball and the heel, will feel like they're on rollers. And they're as if they're on rollers that roll towards each other as you're sitting down and roll away from each other as you're standing up. Obviously, I'm exaggerating with my hands doing this, but you'll get that feeling. And that's part of what increases the arch. As you're sitting down, the two rollers are rolling towards each other, which pulls the arch up. As you're standing up, the two rollers are rolling away from each other, which lets the arch flatten. So you want to really find that and feel it. So that's what's going on in the legs. The thighs are rotating out. The lower leg is pulling the arch up. The ball and the heel are on rollers rolling towards each other, doing this. So you need to practice this. I think I've said that enough times. You need to practice this a lot so you can become aware of this. Then, when you've got the legs working, as you sit down, you can find, if you put your hands on your sit bones, you'll feel that the sit bones stretch away from each other. And as you stand up, that the sit bones actually come towards closer to each other. Sitting down, the sit bones will move away from each other that way. Standing up, they'll move towards each other. Now this motion is very small, and it'll be larger for women than for men because their pelvises are a little bit more free. But there are two joints in the pelvis. There's the pelvic symphysis, which is here in the front, and there's the sacroiliac, which is here in the back. And so when you're doing this, the different parts of the pelvis are actually moving. So while you're doing this, when you sit down, the pelvis will broaden. As you stand up, the pelvis will narrow. This is part of why I really want the arm motions to be this way. So that as you stand up, you feel as if you get taller and narrower. The other planes in the body will reflect this too. You'll feel the plane through the shoulders broaden as you sit down and become more narrow as you stand up. You can actually feel that in the head too. You'll feel like the base of the skull broadens and then it narrows as you're coming up. So the three planes, through the pelvis, through the shoulders, through the base of the skull, all getting bigger as you sit down, all narrowing as you stand up. I didn't say anything about the breathing yet. Breathing's a little different than what we normally do in Tai Chi. You breathe in as you sit down, breathe out as you stand up. Breathe in as you sit down, breathe out as you stand up. So when you're doing this exercise, actually go ahead and synchronize the breathing. It's not like all the ones where we say, let the breathing just happen continuously and with time you'll synchronize. If you're at the point to be doing this exercise, synchronize the breathing. And you can pay attention to the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome like this, and the muscles on the side here, when they contract, that pulls the diaphragm down, which makes more room inside the lungs. When they release, the diaphragm comes back up. So as you're sitting down, the diaphragm is dropping. As you're standing up, the diaphragm joins everything in coming up. So it's becoming broader, and it's rising. So practice this exercise. Doing it, for 5 minutes or something at a time is a good thing to do. Sitting down, standing up, and work through the pieces. Feel your legs changing, the thighs rotating, till you really have that. Feel the lower leg coming up on the inside and dropping. Feel the rollers in the feet, and the arch increases, the arch decreases. The arch gets taller, the arch gets flatter. Feel the planes in the body. The pelvis broadens, the pelvis narrows. The shoulder girdle broadens, the shoulder girdle narrows. The base of the skull on the spine broadens, it narrows. So you want to get to the place where this is one feeling all the way through the body. The diaphragm drops, you breathe in. The diaphragm releases, you breathe out. Now the same mechanics happens in the form, happens when you're doing push hands. This is part of how you can actually load the leg and the foot so that it's got spring power so you can release it. But when you're doing the form or you're doing push hands, this is too complicated and technical to pay attention to. So use this exercise to teach yourself the way the arch works, the way the parts of the leg work, the way the parts of the body can broaden and narrow, so that you have that as something you actually understand internally, and then don't try to do this during the form. Don't go through the form thinking, oh, okay, my arch is increasing, my arch is flattening, my arch is increasing, flattening, increasing, flattening. Now, what I just said is true, that's the way it works, but don't run through the form trying to make that happen. Do this exercise, and then let it ripple through the rest of your practice. So this is really valuable. Spend some time on it. I don't have a good name for it, but spend your time on it.